Hello everyone, welcome back to It's Current Year for another quick battle ladder replay. Today played an excavation site. I am playing the Warriors of Chaos, and I'm going up against the aptly named Orca, who is taking the Greenskins. So without further ado, let's go and have a look at what my opponent has taken over here. He's got his fast core of Wolf Riders and Wolf Rider Archers. He's also taken the Mangy Marauders, which have a little bit of armor piercing on their missile damage, which is never goes astray in this matchup. Obviously, Warriors of Chaos, particularly their infantry, are quite well armored. He's gone for Azag the Slaughterer. Looks like he's taking Slugger Slashers, and then the obligatory Spirit Leech and Fate of Buna combo for his magic. He's up on his Wyvern. His front line, just some stock standard Orc boys in the front here, as well as 2 units of Black Orcs. Obviously, Black Orcs great for taking on Chaos Infantry. High armor piercing, high weapon strength, reasonably good stats. Trade upwards with basically everything on the Chaos roster. Some Savage Orc Biggins. That's a pretty decent pick in this matchup. They have a little bit of anti-large bonus, and they are a high damage dealer, so it can be good as Chaos Spawn are really popular in the Warriors of Chaos factions right now, and the Beastmen. So, you know, they obviously have pretty poor defensive stats, Chaos Spawn, so having the anti-large and the dedicated damage from the Biggins there is handy. He's also gone 2 units of Stone Trolls for a bit of clubbing, and he's got the Rusty Arrows here with their armor sundering poisoned missile attacks. So over to my force, and before we get to sort of too into it, just a little bit of a backstory about how this sort of list came about. I was practicing my Warriors of Chaos play this evening, and I'd queued up a bunch of games actually against various opponents who were playing Greenskin, and I kind of just found that trying to sort of fight, obviously, you know, Greenskins always go fairly wide. They have a fairly decent sort of skirmish cav play, and I just kind of wasn't feeling like my Marauder Horsemen and my Hounds were really getting value for money against the Greenskins sort of fast movers. It was impacting on what I could take in my front line. So I decided to just get back to the good old days of 8th edition fantasy, when the Warriors of Chaos were all about big monsters and elite infantry blocks. So I have basically just gone an elite horde of infantry. Obviously, you can see a pretty small unit count on my force. It's actually a reasonably small Greenskin force as well, by what you often see. But in the front row here, 2 units of Marauders with some chevrons because I have some leftover change. Decent shielded infantry. They do well enough against Orc boys. Night Goblins obviously lose to Savage Orcs and things like that, but shielded infantry, I needed shields. I recognized I needed shields, or I needed good armor, because I was going to be likely giving up the play to skirmishers. So a little bit of a buffer here on my flanks. And then I've gone the real meat of this list, just the regular shielded chosen, and look at those combat stats: 46, 60, 44, 120 armor, silver shields, insane leadership. They basically fight until the death. They will take on any, with the exception of Black Orcs, they'll take on any Greenskin infantry and absolutely laugh in their faces. They're really mean. Some chosen with great weapons here, just again for the high armor piercing, bit of damage dealing potential, and just in the theme of the list that I was taking as well, that could have been sort of broken down into, I guess, 2 units of Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Some people might say that's maybe a little bit more cost effective, but I thought, stuff it, I'm going all out here with my elite chosen core. I've then got 2 units of Chaos Warriors on the flanks with halberds. Figured I would come up against maybe some Boar Riders, even some Squig Hoppers. Squig Hoppers with their anti-infantry and some armor piercing can be nasty in this matchup. So just some protection, good against trolls as well. If there was an Arachnarok, some dedicated anti-large here. Decent stats, decent melee defense, good armor, so they don't really care too much about small missile fire. And just good for, I guess, in a pinch, if I have to send them in against Black Orcs. They won't love that, but they can do it. And then the Demon Spear here. With their debuff, they're handy as a frontline, unit, bringing down the melee attack of the opposition, but also just a bit of a buzzsaw unit, good for cleaning out night goblins, good for cleaning, basically anything light armored. Even against savage orcs, they do reasonably well. Also poisoned attacks, which is great to have in the front line. And now over to my hero core. I decided to just go a big flying goon squad of Terror Causers here. I've also taken a Law of Death caster, a Chaos Sorcerer Lord. I've taken a Spirit Leech, and I actually went for Purple Sun instead of Fate of Buna. Basically just because I think Fate of Buna is a bit of a boring spell, to be honest. I also took the sort of anti-heroes just for a little bit of extra weapon damage and armor piercing. Wasn't sure which Lord I was going to face this matchup, but good for gooning potential if they drop down. And these Exalted Heroes here are just completely naked, so they don't have any items, they don't have the Mark of Khorne, no Foe Seeker, no Deadly Onslaught. They are just vanilla Exalted Heroes on Manticores. They're actually relatively cheap when you take them like this. Good leadership, decent combat stats, good speed, and a Terror Causer, which is really, really important in this matchup with the low morale of the Greenskins. So as we get underway here, you can see basically this big terrain piece here is actually really works in my advantage, given what I've not taken, I guess. It basically closes down this entire flank of the battlefield. He has to commit basically everything to this flank, and as you can see here, he has deployed together. But anything he wanted to come around on this flank with, it gives me a lot of time to see it and deal with it. Limits his potential for rear charges and the like. I'm more than happy for these guys to waste their ammo into shielded marauders, and these guys won't really take any damage from the likes of Goblin Wolf Riders. So I'm just sending these guys out here. You can see a lot of those shots missing because I'm on the move. Screening them out, getting my infantry corps ready here, pressed up against this big pit, so I can basically stop myself from getting wrapped around if he's gone a wide front line as well. So push these guys back. I'm drawing these guys into the force. I'm starting to spread my infantry out a little bit. I do take a charge here from the Orc boys. Would have been nice to get a counter charge off, but I'm seeing obviously these stone trolls being brought in a little bit early, and I am responding with my halberds. I'll move my chosen back in a sec because I don't really want them to take too much damage from the stone trolls. That's not a great matchup. Fate of Buna unfortunately going down on my chosen, which is going to be pretty painful. The chosen here intercepting the Orc boys. Orc boys will do next to nothing against Orc boys, against chosen, sorry, but he does have his stone troll coming in. That's a great matchup for him. You see me just screening off Azag here with my hero core. That's probably a bit of a mistake. I didn't need to commit everything here to this, so I will actually jump back in here. The halberds, a bit of a breath attack with him there. I think that was a misclick. That should have gone down in the infantry, but the stone trolls have already been warded off by the halberds and a fleeing, and now I've jumped down with my exalted heroes and terror routed off another one. The halberds have traded with the chosen, traded places with the chosen here, and similarly doing a bit of a number on the stone trolls. A Purple Sun goes down here because I see his orcs. I tried to sort of bunch them up. I tried to get a bit of a blob around my exalted heroes here, so that was a bit of a waste. That hasn't really happened. And you see here, Azag is jumping down to try and take on my Chaos Sorcerer Lord. So I do actually pull my exalted heroes off, and you see I get a massive amount of damage here on Azag. Push him out of the fight. He's wasted the art armor buff that he's put down, so because he's fleeing, and the infantry fight's actually going really well. Outside of the Black Orcs, who are, they've got a reasonably good fight here, but again, just the melee defense of the chosen here is significant. The Black Orcs aren't actually trading as efficiently as you'd think with the chosen here, because of the outstanding melee defense. My chosen have been pretty well beaten down. That Fate of Buna was obviously pretty significant, and the Black Orcs here, it's a good matchup. I'm using my shielded marauders here just to keep these guys at arm's length, and keep them out on the periphery so they're not getting really any value picks against anything in here. Azag's taken some armor, so I'm taking some damage, so I'm taking this opportunity to get my flyers back on the ground, try and get some terror outs, get some damage into these guys. I'm a little bit blobbed here, So I'm probably lucky that he hasn't taken the Purple Sun, because that could have been a really value cast there. But he charges back down, unfortunately into halberds, and I will try and get them back on. I've seen the Rusty Arrows here out on their own, and I have tried to sort of dive bomb and push them off, but he's quick to respond with his Wolf Riders. I didn't want to get wrapped up there and then let the Chaos Trolls back in and womp on my Exalted Heroes, so I do get back onto the air. You see my Chosen are pretty much offline, 460 health and 8 models, but looking pretty worse for wear. But the rest of my infantry here, I mean, even these Chosen they're Marauders, sorry, but these Chosen here who are taking a bit of damage, there's still 33 of them. 54 Chosen here. They're chasing off Orc Boys. I need to be careful here because that's obviously not a great engagement for me against the Stone Trolls. So I am pulling them back, and I do see this with my Dragon. So I will try and get a charge in here, try and get the Terror going. But at this point, my infantry is pretty much just staying pretty high and tight. I'm getting the Demon Spew here just to keep warding off. I see some scraps here, probably a little bit of a mistake given the Stone Trolls were here. If he was quicker on the uptake there, I could have lost them, but I see once again the Rusty Arrows out here, and that's a perfect target for the Demon Spew with their high damage output. Basically out of ammo on his fast skirmishers. They've got a few kills, 41 kills, 42 kills, only 16 kills on them, so they're pretty much out of the picture. They're not great in combat, and I have 50 halberds here, 46 halberds here, so I've got plenty of charge defense against large, plenty of anti-large bonus. My Exalted Heroes here together will definitely be able to beat down on Azag, so I'm just sort of screening him out. Most of the battle, my Sorcerer and Azag have been sort of trading Spirit Leeches as well. I think that's another one going down on him there. Yeah, so some Arcane Conduit and a Spirit Leech going down. But the Wolf Riders and the Trolls are coming back in, trying to get a charge in there before my Halberds can respond, but I will be peeling them off. And then I'm just going to dive bomb down once again with my Flying Goon Squad. You see over here, the Demon Stew have done pretty well here. They're actually, like, Savage Orcs are quite fast, but the Demon Stew are fast enough that I've pushed these guys right off. And with their armor sundering, they could have actually been quite significant in the front line here. Everything here is super heavily armored for me, even my heroes. And again, I've just got this big blob of elite infantry. I get a good attack animation there on the Exalted Hero, mucking up the charge on the Goblin Wolf Rider archers who are charging in. These guys are broken off. They're actually terrified. And I just have a really big, nasty blob of really angry Warriors of Chaos elite infantry here. This poor old Troll's stuck in there. He's probably not going to get out. The Demon Spew out here, they've actually rallied. I'm not sure whether they come back or not, but I'm feeling good here with what I have left. 44 Halberd Warriors in that unit, 50 Halberd Warriors there, 29 Chosen there, 50 Chosen there. There's not a lot here that I'm that worried about. There is a set, well, if they can get some regen, they'll be semi-healthy, but because they have 10 unit models, but it's a pretty worn down, and they're obviously taking a lot of damage, so their morale is very low. Once again, I'm trading Spirit Leeches with Azag. He basically has to stay at arm's length for now because, you know, one attack from any of these guys will probably break him off. I'm just going to sit here in the trees. I can dictate, you know, which fights I take here with my flyers. This is a bit of a mistake from me here. I think I was microing my Exalted Heroes over, and I do take a big volley there from the Armor Sundering Fire of the Rusty Arrows. And this is a bit of a desperation play from me here. I think he's about to break, and I do have a fair bit of Winds of Magic left. So I just dropped a Purple Sun on the nearest thing I could. That was a sort of reasonably large blob of infantry there, just to get any value I could. Sure enough, he does break. He will come back, but he breaks. But my Exalted Heroes here sense in an opportunity to get the last real damage dealer of the Greenskin force off here. Do drop onto the Stone Trolls. They shatter them, and with that we trigger army losses. And the Warriors of Chaos will take the day. So, like I said at the start of the video, a really sort of old school 8th edition fantasy style of Warriors of Chaos. You know, elite infantry, big nasty monsters, point and click, and away you go. It's it was surprisingly effective in this matchup. I was probably expecting to see maybe some boar riders, even some boar, possibly some boar boys, just for the armor piercing. Probably just a few engagements went my way with the halberds. The halberds did really well at warding off the stone trolls. You see 14 kills, 27 kills here. That's a pretty low return on units which should be good in this matchup. They were fighting one-on-one. Stone trolls are obviously great units in terms of their damage potential, but their stats aren't fantastic, and obviously their leadership is horrendous. So you've got to have some support, and Orc boys are fine in that role, but they probably just got a little bit isolated. I really think when you're playing a troll, if you're going to invest in trolls as the greenskin, I would find a way to get a Black Orc Big Boss into your force for the ability to impart immune to psychology. Terror routes on trolls are just a nightmare. I think they have 40 leadership base, so terror causes don't really have to actually cause too much damage on these to get them out of the fight. And then obviously 1-to-1 everything, really aside from the Black Orcs here who got a reasonable amount of kills, all the other infantry here against what I have taken are going to struggle with the armor values. You look at obviously the Chosen here copped a Fate of Buna, so didn't really get much value on them, but 68 kills, 56 kills. They just and look how healthy they are. They just the Chosen there with shields just held all day. 176 kills on the Demon Spew, and also the debuffing in the front line. 65 kills, 60 kills on the Halberd Warriors, and a good deal of damage put into the Stone Trolls. And then the Marauders are just basically throwaway. 30 kills and 40 kills there is more than enough. They've probably chewed up some armor from the fast cav. One of those units basically screened out both of those units when the frontline fighting started. And then I can pick and choose my fights with my flying terror causers. So bit of a different list. Spawn are really popular. Marauder Horsemen are really popular. Shaggoths, Shaggoths, do quite well in this matchup because Arachnaroks and things like that can be quite scary. But this list just came about basically after, like I said, after a few games of playing the Greenskins, and I sort of just gave up on trying to go toe to toe with wide front lines and a lot of fast skirmish pressure. Probably you could say that this list wasn't as wide and as flush with skirmishes, but fun to play, does its job. It's fairly easy to micro, got the job done on this occasion. So thank you very much for checking out the video, and we'll be back soon with more replays. Take care.